And I'm Chandrakant. Today we would like to talk about DQ. DQ stands for Digital Quotient, similar to IQ. And all of us know that IQ stands for intelligence, how fast your brain works and how many calculations you can do in a minute, etc. But in this decade, from 2020 to 2030, DQ is going to play a major role in our success and our failure, because DQ stands for IQ plus digital competency. And this is exactly what we are going to discuss in our program. And with regard to cybersecurity, because being cyber secure is the most important thing in today's world, because you want to protect your identity. So therefore, friends, don't go anywhere. I'll be joining back with my guests to discuss on this very important issue after few promotional messages. Akulmac Genius program will help you prepare for your upward trajectory towards success in the digital world. Our program consists of 12 unique tailor-made sessions of 1 hour each, spread over 6 weeks. Akulmac Genius program provide you practical knowledge about how to optimally use online video platform with lights, action, camera, as well as crash course in using virtual screens. The program also includes a session on the grooming and online etiquettes, which are important for running your online sessions and webinars. At the end of the program, our participants would be allowed to make their own videos, which will be published on a very popular business channel called Akulmac Live. This will provide global recognition to all our participants. If you like what you hear, then using the link in the description below, join the program straight away or visit www.akulmac.com. Welcome back, friends, and we will be discussing about competency around cybersecurity. And for this discussion, I'll be joined by a very senior industry colleague of mine, Mr. Gaunt from UK. So without further ado, let me present Mr. Gaunt.
Good morning, CK. Good morning, everybody. Cyber competency. It's an interesting phrase. It's not difficult to remember because it starts with two same letters, the letter C and cyber. You need to be competent. So just let me ask you a question, CK. There's lots of people talking about cybersecurity and what you need to do and how you need to do it. And they're all focused, in my view, on the technical arena. You know, making sure you got a strong firewall and your emails are secure and your web hosting secure and all that sort of stuff, which is important. But are they missing something? Is there something bigger we should be talking about? What do you think?
Well, Neville, absolutely, because there is a word called DQ, which is digital quotient. So many people don't know how to behave in digital world. And when we say that, hey, how strong is your DQ, we have no idea, because we only think about IQ. So it's very important for each one of us, whether we are old, middle-aged or young person who's now using the internet, to increase our digital quotient. And I think that is where the cybersecurity is. So I think we have to guide our viewers about how they can start actually understanding where they are going wrong in order to protect themselves. This is my feeling, Neville.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, CK. I mean, I'm all for, technical competence, which is important. But in many respects, in the large organizations, they have huge IT groups that are there to support the users. But it's the users, actually, that is the biggest level of control. Because I don't believe, and a lot of articles that I keep reading out there, it's proven that we're not really very good at being digital. We're not that digital savvy. So let's just look at a simple example. I mean, there seems to be a glut of texts that come to me currently. That's straight MSM. It's Messenger. It's the iPhone's got its own, particular internal messenger, but it's text. It's just the old text, So you've got my mobile number, I've got your mobile number, and we text each other. And obviously we're using, an interesting language between each other, as I find out with my children. However, the point is, how savvy are you when you get a text from someone you've not heard of? So, for instance, I get a lot from Amazon. And interestingly enough, none are from Amazon. And they say, press here, return the call. Or if you want these messages to stop, just return a message under a particular code. And they're all like 5 or 6 digit numbers, which is just text, isn't it? You sign up for all these things sometimes and you say, text stop to 73958. And you do that. And then suddenly you look at your bill and you realize you've just been charged 1,000 rupees for the benefit of texting someone to stop who actually shouldn't have had your details in the first place. So have you ever got caught? And be honest, CK, have you ever got caught with one of those scams?
Yes, Neville, I will not lie to you. I got caught and I also lost some money while doing that. And, after that, I don't even entertain any unknown calls or any message which I, receive, an email. I don't read it. Without reading, I delete them. But I think the interesting point is that now the, technology is available where it is called zero click. So zero click is it's like this: when you actually take some action, then you are actually clicking something, and then the malware will get activated and basically harm you in some way. But with zero click, you don't have to do anything. You will not even receive a blank call. You will not get an SMS. And that is where the world is today. All these bad guys are able to distribute malware with zero click. And I think that is where we are. So even though we have lost money, I personally have lost money, Neville, to answer your question, from my bank account because I clicked on something thinking it's a real mail from a bank. So it has happened to me. I'm sure a person who's not so savvy with IT, what goes on out there, we can only imagine.
Well, thank you for being honest, and mea culpa too. I mean, I've been guilty of it. Not in recent years. It was some time back when I hadn't even thought that there was this crook, this nasty group of people out there that were just out there to prey on me. And I treat myself as being, pretty smart in the digital world. But obviously, none of us are perfect. So this is about why I call it competence, cyber competence, as opposed to digital quotient, because it's just a matter of you thinking, not necessarily knowing that any of this is happening, but what do you do when you go through this process of seeing a text and you say, it says, click here to stop, What's going through your mind when you just automatically press click? And this is before, as you say, the click-free arena, a zero click. This is what's going through your mind. And I think this is where we need to educate people. We need to get people to say, if it's coming from someone I know, there's still a risk, actually, because they may have sent something on without even looking at it. And that happens a lot too. So it's not a case of you don't trust the people you're working with. It's a question of, do you trust yourself? And this is the bigger question, I think. And the way to do this is just to think, especially when you see something you've never seen before. Don't go through this automatic, I'll click here and stop it. Because the reality of life is it's probably going to cost you a lot of money. And the other thing is they're going to get a lot of information from here as well, because it's not just about getting money out of you, as a lot of people think, this malware arena, they've ripped me off, this and that and the other. It's actually about getting your data and then being able to use that data somewhere else. So cybersecurity is a really big issue for the individual. And this goes for people at home too. You know, your kids and grandchildren, need to be aware of the cybersecurity arena, not by frightening them to say, you mustn't do this and you can't do that and you're not allowed to do this and I always have to be present and, I'm going to have your login details and you're not allowed to have those, because I've heard parents say that. And all that does is put fear in children. So they're not actually getting the benefit of what this internet might be. They think that the boogeyman's out there and the boogeyman's always going to get you. And that instills fear, too much fear in young people. So we need to get over that, but work in a smart way. So you've got 2 young children. What do you talk to them about being cyber secure, or their digital quotient, or cyber competence, as I prefer to call it?
Well, Neville, I do the same thing what you just described, scare them off. But I think interesting thing is, today there is a new development. I got an email from Zoom saying that in accordance to the new IT Act of India, they are changing their use policies. And that very clearly, I've gone through the use policy. In order to use Zoom, they have to be at least 16 years or above. And that is one thing which triggered my thought process. I have written to the school saying that, hey, all the students are studying using Zoom, but they don't allow as per the use policy. And in accordance to the IT Act of India, the Zoom is not allowed to be used by a younger person, whereas the entire India is using Zoom today. So I have written to the school today, and we are going to have a conversation with the kids as well about cybersecurity. And the second thing they have mentioned in the Zoom use policy is that there is a regulation on recording also. So when you press recording, the other person on the other side should have given you a written permission. So that is number 2. And number 3 is when you're displaying things in your video, when you're doing your conversation and if you're displaying things like logo, etc., you must have the copyright agreement with the logo owner. So these are the 3 important things which has happened today and done by Zoom by changing their use policy.
Well, Zoom are a large multinational company, and what they're doing is they're obeying the laws, and the laws are different between one country and another, which is always a complication for people that are trying to make communication easier, because that's what Zoom is intended to do. It's to help people communicate in a much easier way, in a simpler way, to do presentations, from a distance. I've noticed on Zoom recently, picking up your second point, is that I'm advised that the meeting is being recorded. Are you happy with that? So I think I've already seen, and again, it's not across Zoom unilaterally. I think it depends upon the version that the initiator is using. But certainly from Europe, I've seen ones where this has been done, and it's asking my permission for it to be recorded. I've always said yes. The interesting thing is, perhaps I should say no and see what happens. Does it kick me off, or does it tell the the presenter that they're not allowed to record it? I don't know. It's an interesting one, actually. I must admit, I probably should. I should do that. I'll probably tell the presenters that I'm going to do it first, just in case, just to see what happens. But the point is, copyright is another thing that's becoming huge. And this is about the digital space of you as an individual. You own your space. This digital arena that we're both in is jointly owned by us. If it's being recorded, it's definitely jointly owned by us. If I've given permission for you to record it, that permission is 100%. Once it's been recorded, I then can't turn around and say, well, I'm sorry, I don't want it recorded, because I've made the decision up front. And I think Zoom being so successful, more than likely because of COVID, have now really posed a question to all of its school users. Because if that's what's happening in India, trust me, it's not going to be unique. No one's got a monopoly in this arena. My guess is it's going to be happening all the way across Asia, Europe, and the Americas. So I think it's an interesting challenge for these bigger companies, literally, to make sure that they're on the right side of the law. The other thing is, of course, who are they protecting? And they're trying, for the under 16s, they're trying to protect them. In many respects, that 16-year-old threshold is a sort of a line where most governments draw to say you're not an adult until you're 16, and therefore you can't think for yourself. Now, that's not being disrespectful to the under 16-year-olds. It's just that's what life is. So just get over it. We were all 16 once. We're all on the touch of being 15. In the UK, I noticed recently, because we had a big vote over here, and a lot of 17, 11 months and 9 days young people were saying, it's not fair, I should have the vote. And all the 18-year-olds are going, yippee, I've got the vote. So it's just the threshold. Don't worry about it. I don't think. Just get over it and work with it. But going back to this personal cyber arena, we need to be aware, and that's all it is. So if you see an email coming in, even from someone you know, just make sure it is that person. And there's an easy way to do that. The person normally comes up as someone you've known. So when I send an email to you, it will say Neville Gaunt. So that's a pretty good indication. But when we first started to email each other, it would have probably said Neville at yp2grow.com or Neville at mindfitlimited.com. Until you accepted it and then moved on and, made me a friend. But when it comes in from large organizations, this is where I think, young people in particular, but old people get tricked here as well. When they see an email that looks like it's coming in from Coca-Cola or Nike or, some of the big brands in your arena, and because people are quite smart that are doing this, they're far smarter than you or I, because they're devious. And what they want is they want to trick you because they want you to open the email. And as you've said, the zero-click arena, once you open that email, you're in trouble if it's not bona fide. So here's some clues and tricks that we can give people to stop that happening. And this applies to whether you're in a large corporate organization seeing emails regularly from these companies, or whether you're a user at home thinking that you've just won something huge from Coca-Cola, a goodie bag, you entered into a draw or what have you, and bingo. And the first thing is just look at who sent it. So just right-click on the sender, and you will see the email address. Now, in the early days, these people weren't that smart, and they would have a Gmail address behind it. But now, which is obviously, Coca-Cola do not use Gmail addresses. If it's a corporate arena, it will be a Coca-Cola email address. But the other thing is, if you now look at Coca-Cola's emails, and you can go online and look at their website, and it will say email us, and just look at the email address, because everyone in Coca-Cola's got that email address. The only difference is it's the preface that changes. So now go back and look at your email that's been sent to you, and you might find it's coke1.com or coca-cola1.com, or I've seen recently coca-colaprize.com, just to trick you a little bit further to say, oh yeah, this is really coming from Coca-Cola. The reality is it's not. So the essence is we can be quite smart about just the email arena, But the same goes for texts. The same goes for WhatsApp. You know, you've been invited into a WhatsApp group and it says Coca-Cola. I mean, our focus is on Coca-Cola because everyone knows the name. But again, it's the names that are referenced by you. You know, is this making sense, CK? Do you see? I mean, have you been caught by that? I've been caught by it, frankly, a few times. And I've clicked through, and fortunately, we weren't in this zero-click arena, so I had to click on something else. But I was caught with that when I was working with the Coke Group in Pakistan a few years ago, and it was just a coincidence, you know. But that's what these people do. They send out mass emails all over the place, and they're there to trick you. So, what's your thoughts on that particular issue? We've only just scratched the surface.
Well, I think in the good old days, as you're talking about, the Coca-Cola.com can be Coca-Cola.com. All they have to do is change O and replace it with 0. So you.
Oh yeah, they've done that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So they can be very smart over there as well. But in the zero-click arena, without you doing anything on your mobile phone or your PC, the agent can get downloaded on your device. And what it can do, you know, from my point of view, it can track your emails, it can track the emails of your friend, it can track your bank account passwords, user IDs, it can also track your locations. It can also predict where you're heading. So if you know, if the GPS is connected with the malware server, it will be able to guess which address you are heading to. So suppose you are on a road, it will draw your path and also draw addresses on that path. So it's very risky because you know, it could be dangerous too for your life and for your limb, because if somebody has planted a malware and they can predict where you're heading in your car or walking, etc. So they can get your location. They can make you a pauper by taking your account, taking over your account. They can change your mobile number and render you completely without any communication. So all of these things can happen, Naval. In fact, we are just scratching the surface. Much more can happen. Your conversations can be recorded. Your SMS can be recorded. And if you're talking to somebody, all that conversation will be recorded.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you know, the important thing here is that you can do a lot to protect yourself without having to revert to technology. So for instance, iPhones have inbuilt security. They have inbuilt firewalls. And they keep moving on and on in that arena. But if you've got a smartphone, if you've got an Android, by all means, don't think that you're secure. You need to download, because it's a mini computer. You need to download some good malware that will stop these thieves, because that's who they are. They're just digital thieves, and they don't care who you are, how old you are, how much money you've got. They're predators, and they're using software. They're using the IT world to get to you. But let's not be too worried about these individuals, because there's a lot you can do yourself. And we've just mentioned a few things that you can do. But the main thing is, the thing you should be doing all the time is just thinking what's happening. Don't just automatically do what you automatically do. Oh, I've got an email. You've got mail. Click. Don't do that, you know? Just think about, why have I got this email? You know, even the subject matter. You know, these people are very clever, but they're pretty stupid as well, because they don't know how to spell most of the time. And a lot coming from a certain part of the world that spell your, Y-O-U-O-R. I won't say which part of the world it is, but I'm getting lots and lots of emails saying you're spelt completely wrong. And that's the key. You just got to be aware of what's happening. You know, if it's coming from your friend regularly and they haven't changed their mobile number, etc., then that's fine. You can keep that regular discussion going as long as they're not sending you to a third-party site or saying, "Oh, look at this link. I think it's great." My suggestion is phone them up and saying, "Did you click on that link? How great is it? You know, what does it do?" Sometimes you'll find out is they didn't click on the link. It was just sent to them by someone else who said, "Oh, click on this link. It's great." Because it's embedded in the message. And we can get caught with that because it's come from a really friendly source. So the message for today is just think. It's a bit like when you cross the road. Do you just walk straight across the road in traffic? Or do you think, actually, I'm going into an area that is not for me because it's a road and pedestrians should stay on the pavement or the zebra crossing. So I need to think. So what should I do when I'm crossing the road? And you look left and right, and you keep looking if you're crossing the road. That's all we're asking you to do. Think. Because that is the biggest form of security that you will ever have in this cyber arena. The digital quotient, I think, is an incredible term that people have put together, but someone's going to say, what on earth does that mean? We know what cyber is, and we know what cybersecurity is because we've heard it all the time. So it's about being competent at the end of the day. And it's easy to remember 2 C's, cyber competency. And the thing is, as adults, as parents, as grandparents, you need to be cyber competent as well, because your children will need help. And the first person that they trust and look to for that type of help are going to be their parents, grandparents, and then their teachers as well. It's a big subject, but if we're just smart and we think a bit more than normal, we'll actually stop a lot of heartache. Because, as you well know, CK, when you had money taken out of your bank account, it wasn't just the money that hurt. It was the process that hurt, you know? When it happened to me, I felt stupid. I felt an idiot. I felt my esteem was really low. And there I was telling other people what they should be doing, and I just fell for it. So what does that make me look like? It makes me look like a fool. And consequently, that hurts harder than a bit of money being taken out of the bank account. But there are consequences to that as well. So we need to give people a bit of resilience around it. So we're not perfect. So when it does happen, make sure you contact your bank and you actually put a block on anything else that's unrestricted by you normally. And if that means curtailing, things that you currently do, then frankly, that's just tough, and it's a good measure to do. So you need to think of the consequences, because once they've got in once, as you quite rightly said, CK, 0 click. Now they've got the information. Now they've got that data. They can get in again, even though you don't even know what they're doing. So we need to be smart and, don't beat ourselves up if we do get caught, but trace the steps and make sure that the consequences are now curtailed. You're back in control, and that will help you feel better about it as well.
Well, thank you so much, Neville, for giving us all this information today. And I think you're just scratching the subject. And, important thing for the viewers would be to get more savvy, increase their DQ, because I think the DQ will increase only if you start reading about cybersecurity. So I think the suggestion that I would like to give personally to everyone is that start increasing DQ, because the next decade and onwards, the DQ will play a bigger role than IQ. So with this, I like to say thank you to our guest today, and we will catch up with Neville Gaunt sometime in future again with something more interesting.
My pleasure, CK. Good luck, everybody, and enjoy the day.